Good morning, and welcome to the What Inspired Me Today podcast, a podcast created to inspire you to be the very best that you can be. My name is Stephen Matthew, and this is what inspired me today. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to be speaking with you today. To begin with, I want to thank all of those that have been listening into the podcast through Spotify and all other podcast mediums, and for those that have been watching through YouTube, especially those that have been subscribing. Thank you for your continued support. I want to especially give a shout out to all of those that have been giving me suggestions and ideas and tips for how to make this podcast better. Your ideas are being actively used to make this better, and I thank you for your help in doing so. If you notice that this week's podcast looks better, the background looks better, that is all thanks to my wife, and so I want to publicly thank her as well for her expertise to make this a little bit better as well. Speaking of, last week I started to touch on a topic called honor, and I want to focus in on that this week. I want to talk about the principle of honor. Honor is defined as to regard or treat someone with admiration and respect. Now, respect is something that I hold very dear to my own heart. In fact, it is the foundation on which everything else is built upon, at least in my own life. The reason for that is because I firmly believe that you cannot do anything well without having a sense of respect to begin with. So this is why, even for myself, even above my own faith, respect comes first. Because I cannot love my fellow human being, I cannot serve my God, I cannot follow my faith without first having a level of respect for all parties involved. And so, ideally, respect is something that we already have for those around us. The quote that I wanted to share with you this morning comes from Hermann Hesse, and he says this: "It is not our purpose to become each other. It is to recognize each other, to learn to see the other, and honor him for what he is." Honor is a special level of respect that we give to individuals that we might admire, that we might respect, that we might give based on their actions, based on who they are, based on their position. Honor is a posture of the heart and not just with actions. Because when we think about honor in this world, we might think that honor is tantamount to sucking up or brown-nosing. We might think that honor is a way to get our own way and be manipulative. But honor, in its true essence, is something that is internal within us. It's a trait of character and integrity. And so this is something that we can choose to develop in ourselves. With honor, Thomas Carlyle says this: "Show me the man you honor, and I know what kind of man you are." Who do we give our honor to? When we talk about honor, we aren't just talking about someone who is in a high position that demands or commands respect in a certain way. We are talking about every single individual and how they interact with the people around them. The principle of honor is not just relegated to people above us, it is also for everyone on our own level, and if we're being honest, people we might even think is below us. Honor is for all, and honor is to be cultivated within us. In fact, the Chinese philosopher Xunzi defined honor in two ways. He said that there is two different kinds of honor. The first type of honor is what's known as righteous honor. Righteous honor is something he defined as something that comes from within. It is built up from our intentions and our thoughts, and it's something that we have to cultivate within ourselves in order to give and express to other people. The second type of honor that he defines is what's known as conventional honor. And conventional honor is what we think of in the modern day as honor sometimes. This is honor through external circumstances. So maybe it is giving or getting honor by giving an accolade or a prize. Maybe it is by giving words of affirmation or praise. Maybe it is the prestige that comes with high positions or a salary. These are oftentimes things that we think of as someone who is honorable. They are someone that has a good paying job, that is in a high place in society. These things Shunzi defines as conventional honor. They come from the external environment and they can be given and immediately taken away as well. However, he defines this righteous honor as something that we cultivate within ourselves, and it's something that we cannot take away from an individual. If I am someone that cultivates through my words and intentions and actions a sense of honor for those above me, for those around me and below me, then that is something that cannot be taken away. It becomes then a matter of the heart and not just actions, because our actions ultimately flow from our heart. Pastor Dan Zambadi, he says a couple of really important things about honor. He says that we should honor people even when they don't deserve it, and even despite or in spite of their inadequacies. This is a really difficult thing to do, because oftentimes we would say honor is earned and it's not just given, it's not just demanded, right? And oftentimes that is demanded or requested by individuals that might not deserve it. But honor doesn't just have to be something that is deserved. It becomes more special when it is, but it doesn't just have to be relegated to that. So this is a difficult thing for us to do in our natural human self and with our own proclivities. But when we honor someone in spite of themselves, that is more of a reflection of who we are as a person than who they are and what they claim to be. So I don't have to necessarily believe everything that someone else believes or think the way that they do or their perspective of the world, but I can still honor them. What that does is ultimately it blesses us as we continue to develop in our own lives. A good example of this is the biblical story of King Saul and David. David was anointed and he was the one that was going to become the next king. However, King Saul was the current king at that moment in time. And even though David had the means, had the ability to be able to kill King Saul, he still honored him in spite of himself, in spite of the fact that actually Saul wanted to kill him. And so with that honor, David was ultimately blessed, because it wasn't because of his actions that he was blessed. He was blessed because of the posture of his heart. This is an internal matter, not determined by our external actions. The second thing that Pastor Dan Zambadi says about honor is that we should make space for faults in people. This makes sense because all of us are flawed. None of us are perfect, and so we are all subject to make mistakes. Leave margin in your life for the people around you so that they can make mistakes. It's not an excuse and it's not a permission slip in order to screw you or to disrespect you or to dishonor you, but it is the ability to know that one day might be an off day. Some days might be great, some days might be bad, but if we leave margin for people, then we give them the space to be able to work things out and hopefully be able to make things right as well. The final thing that Pastor Dan Zambadi says about honor is to be the first and the quickest to apologize. Apologizing is a really difficult thing to do. But when we do apologize, we are leading it out of a place of humility, trying to settle a situation, trying to make peace. Now, we don't have to always be right in order to apologize either. Sometimes the next right thing to do is to be able to say sorry. And sorry is a very difficult word to say. Despite how small of a word it is, it has giant ramifications. And so when we take the time to acknowledge where we mess up in our own lives and have the humility to be able to apologize, we are actually opening up the doors for honoring the other person, and we're opening up the door in our own lives and in our own heart for that honor to flow out of. And so when you're in a situation that is tense, that might involve one or two parties or multiple parties, be quick and be the first to apologize and settle that situation. Ultimately, you are taking the higher ground by doing so. Notice, though, that all of these things that I've mentioned are all internal actions and internal attitudes. This is not something that we do to show off. It is not something that we do to seem pious or superior to other people. These are internal attitudes, mindsets, and our heart posture that ultimately helps us to grow in our own lives. The benefits of doing all of this is that we become more amenable to the people around us. We open up the doors for greater connection. We open up the doors for stronger relationships. We open up the opportunities in our own lives to grow and to go up in the world as well. That is not the reason why we want to do it, but it is an effect of that. Because when people recognize that this person is someone who stands by their word, that gives respect to all people, that is amenable and willing to listen and to be in the negotiating table, it allows them to trust us, knowing that we are trustworthy, that we are able to keep our word, that we are able to respect and to honor all those around us. And so it has all of these wonderful side effects as we develop and cultivate this in our own lives. So I want to ask you today, who can you honor today? How can you honor them? Well, can you honor them by doing an action for them? Can you honor them by the words that you say? Can you honor them by giving respect? Can you honor them by being the best version of yourself? As you do that, you will start to see changes that slowly happen in your own life. Because this is something that we all crave, this is all something that we all want, but we don't need it from other people. When we start to cultivate a sense of honor in our own lives, we start to have transformation occurring throughout every facet of our life. And so I want to encourage you today to develop your own sense of honor. And as you do so, may you continue to be blessed. With that said, have a great week.